Welcome back for the another session of 10th Standard Science, lesson number 3, Thermal Physics. Last session we have discussed about how a material gets expanded on heating. So, this session we will discuss in detail how the expansion takes place. And now first let us see what is expansion in solid. So, when a solid is heated, the atom gains energy and vibrates more vigorously. So, this results in the expansion of solid. So, we can in general discuss about three types of expansion in solid. So, they are linear expansion, superficial expansion and cubical expansion. So, from the name we can assume that linear means it is one dimensional. So, let us see the definition. When a body is heated or cooled, the length of the body changes due to the change in its temperature. So, then this kind of expansion is called as linear or longitudinal expansion. Now, how to measure this expansion? It is very difficult to measure. So, what we will do is we will find out the ratio of the increase in length to the original length. So, when we measure like that, we have to term a new word for measuring that. So, that new term is taken as coefficient of expansion. So, when we consider linear expansion, we will call it as coefficient of linear expansion. So, it can be defined as the ratio of increase in length of the body per degree raise in the temperature to its unit length is called, and this is called as the coefficient of linear expansion, and its SI unit is Kelvin inverse or K minus 1. Now, let us see the calculation how it is derived. Now, in the diagram you can see there is the metal rod is there, its original length is taken as L naught, initial length is taken as L naught, and we can assume that the temperature at which the metal is present is T naught. So, original length L naught and T naught is the original temperature. Now, I want to raise the temperature with some temperature 1 degree raise in temperature I want to increase. So, 1 Kelvin I want to raise. So, the new temperature when I give, the metal rod gets heated, and the metal rod when it gets heated, slowly after some time you can see there is an increase in the length of the rod. Now, when we measure the length of the rod after heating at a certain temperature, there is a small increase in the length. So, that small increase in the length I can take it as delta L, and the change in temperature can be taken as the initial temperature and the final temperature. When we take the difference, that will give us delta T. So, from this values we can form a formula for this expansion as delta L by L naught is equal to change in is proportional to change in temperature. So, when I remove this proportionality symbol, I will add a constant called alpha L. Now, this alpha L is the coefficient of linear expansion, and this alpha L will tell us how much the rod has expanded. So, from this formula we can find out the linear expansion of any material whatever we are going to expand. The next two-dimensional expansion, which is called as superficial expansion. So, from the name itself, two air axes will get expanded. Therefore, it can also be called as aerial expansion. Therefore, let us define it. If there is an increase in the area of solid object due to heating, then the expansion is called as superficial or aerial expansion. So, as previous case, the same way we will define the aerial expansion in terms of the formula. So, that can be defined as the ratio of increase in area of the body per degree raise in temperature to its unit area. So, this is called as coefficient of superficial expansion, and it is given as a symbol alpha A, and its unit is as usual K minus 1 or Kelvin inverse. Now, let us see the diagram. How we can form a formula for that. Now, as usual, take a rectangular surface which has an area of A naught. So, the initial area is A naught. So, when we heat this object which has an area A naught, it gets expanded to a new area which has a new area. Now, when we subtract both the areas, we can find out what is the change in the area. So, that change in area can be taken as delta A. So, initial temperature is T naught, and the new temperature we have increased. When you subtract both, you can get what is the delta T. So, from this two variables, you can calculate what is the formula. So, here is a formula delta A by A naught is proportional to delta T. Now, when I remove proportionality symbol, I can add coefficient of areal expansion alpha A. So, our total equation changes as delta A by A naught is equal to alpha A delta T. So, from this equation we can find the increase in the area with the help of this calculation. Now, let us go for the three-dimensional expansion. So, when we increase the whole 3 dimension, then we can call it as volume. So, the 3-dimensional changes will be corresponding to the volume. Therefore, we can call them as volumetric expansion or cubical expansion. So, let us define it. If there is an increase in the volume of a solid body due to its heating, then the expansion is called as cubical or volumetric expansion. So, as usual, we can define the coefficient of cubical expansion as the ratio of increase in volume of a body per degree raise in temperature to its unit volume. This is called as coefficient of cubical expansion, and its unit is also Kelvin minus 1. Now, let us see the diagram. Here there is a cuboid. You can see its original volume is V naught, and when I am heating it with certain temperature, you can see its volume gets increased to certain amount. When you subtract the original volume and the increased volume, you can get what is the new change, increased value of the volume, that is delta V. Now, let us see the formula. So, if I want to find out what is the total increase in the cubical expansion, so the formula goes delta V by V naught will be equal to alpha V delta T. So, from this alpha V can find out, when we know all the other variables V naught, delta T, we can easily find what is alpha V. So, this is how we can measure the linear, cubical and superficial expansion of for any material, solid material which is heated. Now, let us go for expansion in case of liquid and gases. So, before going that, let us see some of the values given for certain elements which we day to day life we are using, and why it is given here is this can be asked in 2 marks or even in match the following it can be asked. So, you better learn this for our exam point of view. So, let us read the values. They have given the elements as metals as aluminium. It has a coefficient of cubical coefficient of 7 into 10 power minus 5 Kelvin inverse. Next, you can see there is brass. Brass is having 6 into 10 power minus 5 Kelvin inverse. And next, we have glass, which has 2.5 into 10 power minus 5 Kelvin inverse. Next is water, which is 20.7 into 10 power minus 5 Kelvin inverse, and the last one is mercury, and which is having an cubical expansion 18.2 into 10 power minus 5 Kelvin. Now, from this we can have a small reminder. Whenever we go to doctor, they give us thermometer, right? So, in thermometer we have a special liquid called mercury, which expands very quickly. So, this is one reason why mercury is used as a thermometric liquid. So, you can remember this value for mercury. Now, let us go for expansion in liquid and gases. So, same way we have studied in lower class, liquid and gas also gets expanded. Here also, when we heat liquid or gas, the atoms in liquid or gas, they also gain energy and they are forced to move apart. So, we have studied in lower class that liquid expands a little more and gas has highest expansion rate, right. So, the extension of expansion varies from substance to substance. For a given rise in temperature, a liquid will have more expansion than a solid, and a gaseous substance has the highest expansion when you compare with the other two substances. So, we can talk about the cubical expansion. There is a special case here. You can see cubical expansion of liquid is independent of temperature. So, when I talk about liquid, it does not depend upon the temperature. So, we can just calculate the expansion. There is no need to think about the temperature. So, any temperature you can calculate, but for gas it depends upon temperature, because a slight increase in the temperature, you can see there is a vast expansion in the gas molecules, right. So, for water we can just take it as independent of temperature, and for gas it is dependent on temperature. Next, let us see what is the expansion in liquid. So how liquid gets expanded? So generally liquid is there in the container, right? So when you heat, the criteria is first the water will not get heated, first the container will be getting heated, then only the liquid will get heated, and then finally we will have both container and water both heated, and then we will get the final expansion. When we discuss like this, then we have to talk about two type of expansion. So let us see the condition here. So when a liquid is heated, it is done by keeping in some container and supplying heat energy, the liquid gets heated along with the container. Then we will observe two type of expansion. One is called as real expansion and the other is called as apparent expansion. So what is the real expansion? Actually how the water gets expanded, and the apparent expansion is what we see through the apparatus or instrument. That's called as apparent expansion. Let us see the definition for real expansion. If a liquid is heated directly without using any container, then the expansion that you observe is termed as real expansion of the liquid. So this is the correct explanation for a real expansion. That is, we should not consider the expansion of the container. Only the expansion of the liquid should be considered. So when we talk about expansion, then automatically we have to talk about coefficient of expansion. So here also we will talk about coefficient of real expansion, and it will be the same, the ratio of the true rise in the volume of liquid per degree rise in the temperature of its unit volume, and its SI unit is also Kelvin inverse. Now let us see what is the apparent expansion. The apparent expansion of a liquid apparently observed without considering the expansion of the container is called as apparent expansion of the liquid. And let us see the coefficient of apparent expansion. It is also defined as the ratio of apparent rise in the volume of the liquid per degree rise in temperature to its unit volume. And again its unit is Kelvin inverse, because all deals with the temperature. That is why Kelvin inverse, the volume values will get cancelled on both sides. So we will have only Kelvin inverse as a unit for all the coefficient of expansions. Let us do an experiment how to calculate the linear and apparent expansion, right. So let us take a round bottom flask, fill it with a colored liquid, take it blue, green, whatever we want. Now take it a single rubber cork, single hole rubber cork, insert a thermometer. So when you insert a thermometer, you can measure the initial temperature of the thermometer. So let that temperature, you note it down. When you heat the liquid, automatically the temperature will rise, right. So we have to note all the temperatures when we are heating. So first, before heating, whatever temperature is there, that will be telling you the mercury level L1. Okay. When I am heating it, first slowly the container gets heated. So when the container gets enlarged, automatically the water level in the this will get reduced. Water level will get reduced. So when the water level gets reduced, that level you can take as L2. Now that L2 will be the second level where the only container has expanded and the water level has gone down to the level from L1. So that you can take as the second level where water level has reduced. Third, when we keep on heating again, you can see after some times it has increased to another level L3. So what happened that time? Your container also expanded, the water also gets expanded. So you can see there the water initially was in level L1, then it reduced to level L2, then after some more time it went above the L1 and L2 and it has reached the L3 level. Now we have got three levels. So one is L1, one is below L2 and one is the above than L1, that is L3. Now from this three we have to find what is the real and what is the apparent expansion. Now you can see there the real expansion is, you can see the L2 to L3 is the real expansion and the apparent expansion is L1 to L3. So this is how we calculate the real and apparent expansion. Now let us go for expansion of gases. Now before going for expansion of gases, we have to study the basic laws which are involved in the gases. So there are three laws which which rules the gas area, and they are the Boyle's law, Charles' law and Avogadro's law. Now all these laws, they they work based upon different variables, right? What are the different variables which are related with gas? They are pressure, volume and temperature. So, with these three variables, we can discuss everything about gases, how they expand, how they cool, everything can be studied. Now, let us see first Boyle's law. Now, what is Boyle's law? Now, you can see Boyle's law is nothing but when you keep the temperature constant. When the temperature is constant, the volume of a fixed mass of gas is inversely proportional to its pressure. Now, according to the statement, we can write the formula as P is directly proportional to 1 by V. That means what? When pressure increases, volume should decrease. So, one increases, the other decreases. So, both are inverse. So, one should increase, the other should decrease. So, when we remove the proportional symbol, I can add a constant on the other side, and since 1 by V is in denominator, bring to the other side. So, you can write as PV is equal to constant. To demonstrate this law, you just take a small, you have no cycle pump, you can pump the cycle tire, right, with the gas. So, when you tie the nozzle of your cycle tube with a cycle pump, when you do the pressure, you can see the how your gas, no, you can feel the pressure. So, when you press on the cycle pump, when the piston goes inside, you can see how air gets compressed. Okay. Now, let us see the second law, Charles' law. It is also called as law of volume. It is defined as when the pressure of a gas is kept constant, the volume of gas is directly proportional to the temperature of gas. Then I can write the formula as V is proportional to T. Now, when we remove the proportionality symbol, we can add a constant there. So, I can rearrange the formula as V by T is equal to constant. Now, you can see there is a graph which is a volume and temperature graph. When I keep the pressure constant, I have taken pressure as P1, P2, P3 and P4. When we keep the pressure as constant and we find out what is the change in the volume with respect to the temperature, I can get a straight line graph like this. So, from this we can find out that when you keep the pressure as constant, volume of gas is directly proportional to the temperature and we get a straight line graph. So, from this it is proof that V is proportional to temperature. Now, let us go for the next law. It is called as Avogadro's law. Now, what is this Avogadro's law? This law states that at constant pressure and temperature, the volume of gas is directly proportional to the number of atoms or molecules present in it. And therefore, we can give the equation as V is proportional to N. So, when I remove the proportionality symbol, I will add a constant. Then I can rearrange the formula as V is proportional, V is equal to constant into N. So, I can rearrange the sentence as V by N is equal to a constant. So, this formula defines the Avogadro's law. Now, how we can explain this is, you can see there are 3 balloons and each balloon has different gases, but you can see the volume is similar. So, when you take the balloons with similar volume, that means what? They will contain same amount of molecules, because here the pressure and the temperature, the pressure inside the balloon is the same, pressure outside, atmospheric pressure is also same, and therefore, the volume which is there inside the balloon in all the 3 balloons are similar. So, in that case, I can tell that whatever gas I have filled inside the balloon, they will have same number of atoms or same number of molecules. So, that is the concept, right. So, from this concept, what we can talk about is, we can go for another term called as Avogadro's number. So, this we have already studied in lower class. What is Avogadro's number? It is nothing but the number of atoms present per mole of a substance. Now, what is mole of a substance? A mole is nothing but the molecular mass of the atom. Now, Avogadro's value is given as 6.023 into 10 power 23. That is equal to 1 mole. Okay. So, divide per mole, you can take it as Avogadro's number. So, this Avogadro's number and this formula, Avogadro's law, both are linked to us, right. So, when you have Avogadro's number, automatically you can find out how many number of atoms are there, what is the mole and what is the Avogadro's value. You can form a relation between them. That we will see in the later derivations, right. Next we go for the next concept, which is called as real gas and ideal gas. Now we generally, when we talk about gases, all the space around us is covered with lot of gases, right? So we call them as gases, right? So based upon that, we can call them as real gas and ideal gas. Now what is the real gas? Whatever gases are present around us, they always keep on interacting with them. Okay, they keep on hitting each other in the atmosphere, right? So we can call them that they keep on interacting between them. So I can define a real gas as if the molecules or atom of a gas interact with each other with a definite amount of intermolecular or interatomic forces, that is, they keep on interacting with certain amount of force between them, and that force is called as intermolecular or interatomic force of attraction. Then I can call that gases as a real gas. So a real gas always will be interacting with each other. Now let us go for the ideal gas. Now when we talk about ideal gas, the ideal gas will not interact with each other. They will be separate. They won't be reacting with other gases. So this kind of ideal gas will be very helpful for us for studying different kind of experiments, right? So if the atom or molecule of a gas do not interact with other gases, then I can call that gas as an ideal gas, or another name is as perfect gas. So this two gas, when we use in our different experiments, we can find new theories, right? Now let us go for an important equation which is very necessary for defining the state of any gas or any number of gases, whatever we use. Okay, it states based upon the different variables we have. So let us define the ideal gas equation. It gives the relationship between different state variables like pressure, volume, temperature and number of atoms, and it is used to describe any state of gas. Now ideal gas follows all the laws like Boyle's law, Charles' law, Avogadro's law, and ideal gas equation, there is an equation for ideal gas and it is written as PV is equal to RT. Now this equation is very important. All the gases in the nature, they follow this equation. This equation is made up of the different laws which we discussed earlier. Now let us go for the derivation of this ideal gas equation. To derive this ideal gas equation, first let us write all the three laws next to next, right? So first law is Boyle's law. What is Boyle's law? PV is equal to a constant. Now next Charles' law, V by T is equal to a constant. Next Avogadro's law, V by N is equal to constant. Now all these three laws are used for a gas, right? So gas follows all these three laws. So I have to combine all these three laws. So how shall I combine? So you take all the variables. You can see pressure and volume are in the numerator, and temperature and number of atoms or molecules are in denominator. So according to this, without repeating the variables, you take them once. So when you combine all these three equations together, we will form a new equation which is PV divided by NT is equal to a constant. So this equation is the combination of all the law, and this finally gives us an equation for ideal gas equation. Now let us simplify this ideal gas equation for our easy application for our scientific experiments. Now how to simplify? Now let us first remove that small n and replace with Avogadro's number. Okay, so how to replace the small n? Now small n is nothing but number of moles of gas whatever we have taken. So I can write them number of atoms or molecules, right? I want to write them in terms of Avogadro's number and number of moles. So you can write a small formula, n is equal to nu into Na, where Na is Avogadro's number and nu is number of moles of the gas, and small n is total number of atoms present in the atom or molecule. So you replace small n with nu and Na. So your equation changes as PV bar nu Na into T is equal to a constant. Now this constant, we will replace this constant by a term called Kb. What is that Kb? That Kb is nothing but Boltzmann constant. After doing a lot of experiments, scientist named Boltzmann, what he has done is, he has found out the average kinetic energy present in all the gas molecules, whatever we are using. So that constant value, he has kept it as Kb, and he has calculated the value for Kb as 1.38 into 10 to the power of minus 23 joules per Kelvin. So, that constant value is replaced by Kb. Therefore, our equation changes to Pv divided by nu Na T, that will be equal to Kb. Now, this denominator terms and all you bring to the other side of the equation. So, our equation will change as Pv is equal to nu Na Kb into T. Now, this is the equation which we needed. Now, even in this, I know the value of nu, I know the value of Na, I know the value of Kb. Known values you replace by, because we know the values, you can multiply and get a final value. So, you replace by a term called R. So, your nu Na Kb can be replaced by a new term called R, which is called as a universal gas constant, because they are all constant. So, when you multiply all the constant, you will get another constant. Therefore, its new name is given as universal gas constant, and that is given a symbol of R. So, your equation will change into Pv is equal to RT. Now, this is our final equation for ideal gas equation. It is very, very important 5-mark question or even in 7 marks question. So, they can ask you, so derive ideal gas equation. So, this is the last equation, Pv is equal to RT. Next, we can go for recapitulation, and heat always flows from a system of higher temperature to a system of lower temperature. Its SI unit is joules. Then we define the temperature. Temperature is nothing but degree of hotness or coldness of a body. Its unit is Kelvin, and we followed 3 laws. Whenever you heat any substance, they will have 3 effects. One is the temperature will be raised. Second, it will have a change in state. Third, the substance will get expanded. And then next we saw the expansion in solid, liquid and gases. Liquid expansion is always dealt with along with the container. So, we studied about real expansion and apparent expansion. In solid expansion, we discussed about linear, superficial and aerial expansion. Now, let us go for the evaluation section. Here first question is distinguish between ideal gas and real gas. You have to give differentiate between both the gases, then derive ideal gas equation, then show the experiment to measure the real and apparent expansion of the liquid. Then there is a last problem, and this problem asks you to find out what is the increase in the what is the coefficient of cubical expansion. You can easily solve. Apply the formula cubical expansion delta V by V naught is equal to alpha V into delta T. So, this will give you the answer for this question. So, with this lesson gets finished. All the best children, study well, learn 1 marks, 2 marks, 4 marks and 7 marks. This lesson is a very small lesson. You can concentrate on this lesson, easily you can score marks. So, study well. All the best children.